In my past life, that dog emperor burned me and all the concubines in the harem alive to fulfill his promise of eternal devotion to that green tea bitch. But who'd have thought? Not only did we survive, we all reincarnated. This time around, we won't scheme against each other or cling to those damnable female virtues. Our shared goal is to destroy that despicable couple. In the 3rd year of Yongqing, a fire engulfed the Baohua Hall within the palace. It claimed the lives of myself and all the consorts praying within its halls. Yet inexplicably, after our deaths, our souls did not descend to the underworld. Instead, we lingered, circling above the ruins of Baohua Hall. Seeing her own beautiful body reduced to charred remains, Consort Yen instantly snapped. She immediately lashed out at me. How could you, Empress, have presided over such lax management of palace affairs? Your negligence cost me my life. Consort Yao chimed in, indeed, Your Majesty. Never before has such a devastating fire engulfed the palace. If you devoted even a fraction of your devotion to His Majesty to managing the palace affairs, none of us sisters would have perished in this inferno. Just as I was seething with resentment, I suddenly saw the Emperor arrive, arm in arm with Consort Rong, who had just entered the palace. Upon seeing the Emperor, Consort Zhang immediately sighed. I was His Majesty's most favored one. Now that I've perished like this, how heartbroken he must be. But before she could finish, Consort Rong in the Emperor's embrace cooed coquettishly. For my sake, His Majesty burned all the sisters in the harem to death. So many lives lost, it truly weighs heavily on Xiuyuan's heart. What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Could this fire not have been an accident? Soon, the Emperor resolved our doubts. He embraced Consort Rong affectionately and said, I promised you, Yuner, that we would be together for one lifetime, one soul. As for these women, I was compelled to take them into the harem due to court politics. Each schemed for their family's advancement. Only you, Yuner, truly cherish me. Hearing this, a torrent of rage instantly surged within me and all the other consorts. This Zhu Song, to seize the throne. He fawned over my father, who held military power, begging him to betroth me to Zhu Song. After ascending the throne, to stabilize the empire, he took Yan Zhuyu, the daughter of the chancellor, as imperial consort, and all the other consorts, he brought them into the harem himself to secure his rule. Now that the court is stable, he sets us all ablaze for his so-called true love. And that Rome noble consort, her face wears an innocent, flustered expression, yet the wolfish ambition burning in her eyes is unbearably intense. This inferno surely had her fanning the flames. All our spirits gathered mid-air, clawing and snarling as we lunged toward the Emperor and Consort Rong, intent on killing them to avenge ourselves. But the instant we were about to touch them, we were sucked into a blinding beam of light. When we awoke again, we had returned to the 1st year of the Yongqing era. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself seated upon the Empress's throne in Cunning Palace, with all the other consorts seated below me. As I snapped back to reality, I noticed the other consorts' expressions were equally subtle. When our gazes met, Consort Zhang asked with an eerie tone, Did you all come back too? Well, everyone had been reborn. We had returned to the 1st year of the Yongqing era. Shortly after Zhu Song ascended the throne, Consort Yen slammed her teacup onto the table and sneered coldly. Heaven truly has eyes. Unwilling to let me die in obscurity, it granted me another chance at life. This time, I shall teach that adulterous pair a proper lesson. What about you, Empress? I sipped my tea indifferently. What's the big deal? Just find someone else to be emperor. What do you sisters say? Upon hearing this, the consorts all knelt fervently. We, your consorts and concubines, await the Empress's commands. After declaring their loyalty, Consort Yin couldn't wait to ask. So tell us. What should we do now? Naturally. We must first bring our sister Xiaoyun into the palace. Then properly attend to her needs. In my previous life, Consort Rome was selected during the Imperial Beauty Contest in the 3rd year of Yongqing and retained by the Emperor. As the daughter of a minor official, she possessed delicate beauty but was not considered top tier. Thus, upon entering the palace, she was granted the lowest rank of beauty, and the Emperor showed her no special favor. Back then, Cui Xiaoyun was practically invisible within the palace. Thus, the scheming and rivalries among the consorts never touched her. Unexpectedly, she was the one Zhu Song truly cherished. His coldness toward her was merely a means of protection. But this lifetime, they wouldn't get their way. 3 days later, after finishing his state affairs, the Emperor came to Cunning Palace. Seeing his weary expression, I thoughtfully ordered servants to prepare water and have maids attend to his bath. Zhu Song seemed surprised to see me instructing maids to serve him. Because in my past life, I had feelings for him. I personally handled everything concerning him. Deep down, I truly treated him as a husband in my care. But not this lifetime. This lifetime, I only wish for his death. After Zhu Song finished bathing, I spoke to him tenderly, Your Majesty. I have a request. What is it? Xu Yao? Speak freely. Today, Mother came to the palace and mentioned my younger brother's marriage. She said that while accompanying her to burn incense, he fell in love at first sight with a young lady. To show his deep affection for her, he wishes to request the Emperor's permission for a marriage. Hearing this, Zhu Song paid it no mind. Such a trivial matter, I shall draft an edict tomorrow and ensure your younger brother marries in style. By the way, which young lady has captured your brother's heart? I replied with a meaningful expression, It is Miss Xiaoyun from the Cui family. The imperial censor's household. Zhu Song's expression abruptly changed. Who? Cui Xiaoyun? Indeed. Your Majesty. After seeing her yesterday, my brother became utterly spellbound, losing all appetite and rest. That is why he urged Mother to enter the palace today to seek your Majesty's decree. The Emperor's expression darkened, yet he had no choice but to engage with me. Seeking an imperial decree for marriage after just one meeting yesterday. Might that be a bit too hasty? I feel it would be better to observe more noble ladies in the capital before making a decision. After all, the Cui family's status is truly rather low. For my younger brother to marry into such a family would be quite a stretch. I responded smoothly, Your Majesty speaks wisely. Granting a marriage decree should not be rushed. Come to think of it, I haven't even met the girl yet. Why not summon her to the palace tomorrow for me to observe? If she proves worthy, I shall then request your Majesty's decree. Seeing my concession, Zhu Song's expression finally softened. Yet he still seemed restless. Rising to take his leave. Xu Yao. I recall several memorials awaiting my review in the Hall of Diligent Governance. I cannot keep you company tonight. I shall visit again another day. The next morning, I dispatched an attendant to summon Cui Xiaoyun to the palace. Unexpectedly, my messenger returned empty-handed. They reported that the Cui family's daughter was ill, unable to rise, and thus unable to attend the Empress. I let out a cold laugh, thinking to myself, the Emperor moves swiftly indeed. Last night I had just raised the matter of the imperial match with him, and immediately afterward, he sent word to the Cui residents. But never mind. I summoned my trusted imperial physician and declared, since Miss Cui is ill, take my imperial decree to the Cui residence and examine her thoroughly. If she is truly ill, remain at the Cui residence to treat her until she recovers and can enter the palace. If she is not ill, I left it at that. The palace attendants understood my meaning and hurried off to the Cui residence. Sure enough, shortly after, Palace attendants reported that Lady Chui had entered the palace to present herself. No sooner had Chui Shiyun entered the palace than a young palace maid accidentally spilled tea, soaking her robes. Presenting herself to the Empress in such a state was a grave breach of etiquette. The palace maid thus placed her in a hall long left unoccupied to fetch fresh robes. I trust the Emperor's spies will report this news to him. Inside the cunning palace, the consorts were now paying their respects to me. Upon learning Chui Shiyun had entered the palace, they were all eager to see their enemy from a past life. I sipped my tea and said meaningfully, "Sisters, be patient. Wait a little longer, and you'll see a good show." 2/4 of an hour later, I summoned my personal palace maid. "Shi-Ing, why hasn't Miss Chui arrived yet?" "Your Highness, Miss Chui soiled her gown and is changing in Qingfeng Hall." I feigned surprise. Soiled her gown? She must be nervous. Being her first time in the palace. Very well. I shall personally welcome this future sister-in-law. Consort Zhang immediately interjected, "Your Imperial Majesty's sister-in-law must be a truly exceptional person. Might we concubines accompany you to see her?" And so, accompanied by the other consorts, I proceeded in grand procession to Qingfeng Hall where Chui Shiyun awaited. The spectacle was about to begin. Outside Qingfeng Hall, the guards left by Zhu Song had already been discreetly removed by my men. Now, the hall stood deserted, save for the sound of unseemly moans drifting from within. Hearing this, the consorts gasped in shock. What? What on earth is happening? What's happening? We'll see once we go inside. I pushed open the door and stepped in, the consorts following close behind. The moment I entered, the scent of an intoxicating aphrodisiac perfume assaulted my nostrils, covering my nose. I approached and saw 2 figures passionately entwined on the bed. My stern voice cut through the air, "Who dares to act so brazenly within the palace walls? Guards! Drag this unholy pair away." My cry jolted Zhu Song and Chui Shiyun from their embrace. Zhu Song snapped back to his senses and hastily pushed Chui Shiyun away. Empress, how did you find us?" Hearing this, Chui Shiyun frantically adjusted her robes and bowed awkwardly before me. "Your servant, Chui Shiyun, greets Her Majesty the Empress." I timed my display of shock and anger perfectly. "Chui Shiyun, I summoned you to the cunning palace for an audience. How could you be alone with His Majesty?" Behind me, Consort Yao chimed in, "Is there any need to ask? Your Majesty? This seductress must have bewitched the Emperor. An unmarried maiden, on her very first visit to the palace, has already lured His Majesty into public debauchery in broad daylight. Truly a fox spirit. If she ruins her own reputation, that's her own fault. But if she tarnishes the Emperor's noble name, she deserves to die 1,000 deaths. Your Highness, we beg you to decide, have this seductress dragged away and beaten to death with sticks to uphold palace discipline." As soon as Consort Yao finished speaking, the other consorts joined in with hostile agreement. After all, the taste of perishing in flames in my past life was no pleasant experience. But Chui Shiyun, confident in the Emperor's support, showed little fear. So I added fuel to the fire. "Your Highnesses speak wisely. As the saying goes, without rules there can be no order. This woman openly seduced the sovereign within the palace walls. Her death is no loss. I beg your Majesty to hand her over to me for judgment." Hearing this, Zhu Song's face darkened with embarrassment. Yet to appease the consorts, he had no choice but to take the blame upon himself. The fault for today's events lies not with Miss Chui. It was I who erred in entering this chamber and succumbing to temptation. It was not her fault. If my mistake were to cost an innocent life, my heart could not bear it. Seeing this, I sighed and said, "No wonder. When I requested the Emperor's consent for marriage yesterday, His Majesty looked troubled. So Miss Chui was the one who captured the Emperor's heart. If that is the case, The emperor could have simply told me plainly. I would have welcomed her into the palace. Yet the emperor remained silent, and instead became entangled with this Miss Chui. Is your majesty striking at my face? Or at the face of the Duke of Hua's household? When the matter reached this political level, Zhu Song immediately grew flustered. What nonsense the Empress speaks! You diligently manage the palace affairs within, while your father and brothers fight and defend the borders without, all with unwavering loyalty to me. How could I ever disgrace you? Your Majesty is overthinking. Truth be told, I've only met this Cui Shuyun twice. What becomes of her is entirely up to you to decide. Cui Shuyun, who had been so confident moments before, instantly panicked upon hearing this. Your Majesty, you cannot abandon Shuyun. Though Zhu Song spoke thus, he knew I would not publicly contradict him. Since that is the case, I shall amuse myself by playing along with this illicit pair. Thus I declared, since your Majesty harbors affection for Cui Shuyun, this humble consort shall ease your Majesty's concerns. However, as Cui Shuyun has openly bewitched the sovereign within the palace, this consort shall exercise her authority. I propose welcoming her into the palace to serve your Majesty as a consort of the lowest rank. What do you think, your Majesty? Hearing this, Zhu Song exhaled in relief. Then it shall be done according to the Empress's wishes. Though Cui Shuyun harbored some resentment, Zhu Song had spoken, and she had no choice but to comply. Little did they know that Cui Shuyun's entry into the palace would mark the beginning of their calamity. 2 days later, Cui Shuyun entered the palace discreetly. Although Zhu Song had strictly ordered that the events of that day remain confidential, the other consorts and I naturally had no intention of obeying his wishes. Thus, over the following days, rumors swirled throughout the palace that Cui Shuyun had lost her virtue to Zhu Song on her very first night. Even the Empress Dowager was alarmed. Not only that, but outside the palace walls, speculation ran rampant. As for Cui Shuyun's father, an official of the censorate, he was denounced by his colleagues and had lost all face to appear in court. Cui Shuyun entering the palace under such circumstances must be deeply resentful, and Zhu Song will surely lavish her with compensation. After all, this life differs from the last. In the previous existence, Cui Shuyun was nowhere to be found in the harem, so the other consorts saw little reason to trouble her. But this time, I had deliberately exposed her to everyone's scrutiny. Zhu Song could no longer conceal her existence. Only by showering her with favor could he ensure her survival in the harem. Thus, during this period, I elevated Cui Shuyun to great heights, feigning an intention to promote her, lulling her into a false sense of security. Under Zhu Song's protection and my overtures of goodwill, Cui Shuyun grew increasingly arrogant, even daring to be insolent toward consorts of higher rank. On this particular day, the consorts arrived at Cunning Palace for their customary morning audience. Long past the appointed hour, Cui Shuyun finally arrived. Strolling in leisurely, she bowed to me without haste, saying, "This concubine greets your highness belatedly. I beg your forgiveness." Yan, the imperial consort seated below me, spoke with irritation. "You've been in the palace barely a month, yet you show such disregard for protocol. If this continues, what will become of you?" Facing Yan's provocation, Cui Shuyun seemed rather pleased with herself. "Your highness may not know, but this concubine attended his majesty all night. Hence the late rising. With her majesty the empress being so gracious and forgiving, surely she won't hold it against me." After she finished, I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up my teacup, gently lifted the lid, and took a leisurely sip. Setting the bowl down, I remarked with an air of nonchalance, "Failing to pay respects is indeed no great offense." Before Cui Shuyun could become overconfident, I continued, "But recently, several consorts have come to this palace to complain. They say you relying on the emperor's favor, and have grown arrogant and disrespectful to your superiors. I have no choice but to punish you. However, considering your service to the emperor, I shall only punish you by having you kneel outside the cunning palace for 1 hour. This matter shall be settled. Cui Shuyun looked utterly dissatisfied and tried to speak, but my personal maid immediately seized her, twisted her arms behind her back, and pushed her out. Witnessing this, I remained seated, sipping my tea, my expression unchanged from start to finish. 1 hour later, it was precisely the time when Zhu Song dismissed court. I was certain those close to Cui Shuyun would summon Zhu Song to support her. Sure enough, not long after, Zhu Song received word and hurried over. Cui Shuyun knelt alone in the rain, like a delicate little white flower battered by wind and rain. The moment she saw Zhu Song, tears welled up in her eyes, and she pleaded tearfully for him to vindicate her. Enraged, Zhu Song stormed into the hall to defend his beloved. How dare you humiliate me in front of the servants? What is the Empress thinking? Shuyun has been in the palace for barely a month. What offense has she committed to deserve such punishment? You know full well how much I favor her. Yet you humiliate her thus. Are you seeking to disgrace Shuyun? Or to disgrace me? In my past life, Zhu Song often deliberately favored certain consorts to sow discord among us, pitting us against each other to solidify his power. Whenever Zhu Song and I fell out, he always held the upper hand because I truly cared for him. But this time, I feel only hatred toward him. So I replied calmly, Your Majesty, please calm your anger. I punished Consort Cui precisely because she violated palace regulations. If I did not punish her, it would undermine the discipline of the palace. But there was no need to make her kneel in the rain for so long. Shuyun has always been frail. Punishing her this way is utterly cruel. I remember when you first entered the palace. You were so gentle and kind, unable to bear confining even cats and dogs. How have you become so unreasonable now? Those words were too harsh, practically trampling my dignity underfoot. So I knelt directly to plead my case. Your Majesty is right to admonish me. I am indeed unworthy of such a heavy responsibility. Since that is the case, I willingly return the Empress's seal and crown, and request to be deposed and step down. As for the position of Empress, please choose another to fill it. Having spoken, I ordered Shuyun, Go, fetch the Empress's seal and present it to His Majesty. Zhu Song was startled by this display. Empress, what are you doing? I merely spoke a few words in jest. Why must it come to this? Rise at once. Zhu Song reached to support me, but I gently brushed his hand away. Your Majesty need not indulge me. Within these palace walls, merit deserves reward, and guilt demands punishment. Since I have committed an offense, I am unworthy of continuing as Empress. I implore your Majesty to depose me. This time, Zhu Song was genuinely flustered, sweat beading on his brow. He had only intended to support his beloved, never expecting her to be so resolute, demanding her own dethronement over such a minor matter. Dethroning the Empress was no trivial affair, it was a matter of great consequence for the empire. Moreover, Zhu Song's maternal lineage was unremarkable. He had no legitimate claim to the throne in the first place. It was only through the fratricidal strife among the imperial princes that he ultimately seized the opportunity. When he first ascended the throne, neighboring states watched with predatory eyes, eager to attack while the new emperor's foundation was unstable. It was my father and brothers who were entrusted to quell the unrest at the borders and forged a marital alliance with him, finally stabilizing the situation for Zhu Song. So he hastily changed his tone. What nonsense the Empress speaks. I merely grew anxious seeing Consort Cui collapsed in the rain. Truthfully, the Empress acted rightly today. Lady Cui violated palace regulations and deserved punishment. I harbor no blame toward Her Majesty. Do not speak of dethroning the Empress again. The bond between Shu Yao and I is profound. A mere beauty could never compare to her importance. I raised my head. My expression subtle. Does your Majesty truly believe the servant is without fault? Of course. Hearing this, Cui Shuyan stared at Zhu Song in disbelief. Your Majesty. Then this servant. Shut your mouth. Zhu Song quickly silenced her. You violated palace regulations first. The Empress's punishment was justified. If you have no further business, return to your own palace. I shall dine with the Empress. Ultimately, today's affair concluded with Cui Shuyun departing in disappointment. After accompanying me through lunch, Zhu Song went to the Hall of Diligent Governance to attend to state affairs. To put on a proper show, he even pretended to punish Cui Shuyun with a month of confinement to appease my anger. But deep down, who knows how much it must be tearing him apart. I'd wager he won't last 3 days before sneaking off to visit her in Jilan Palace. Fine by me. It suits me perfectly. For the next few days, Zhu Song used the excuse of heavy official duties to avoid the inner palace entirely. Yet my spies within the palace reported that every night, Zhu Song had Cui Shuyun disguise herself as a young eunuch to attend to his writing utensils in the Hall of Diligent Governance. As for how she attended to him, I knew full well. So I had someone secretly replace the contraceptive potion Zhu Song gave Cui Shuyun each night with fertility-enhancing herbs. According to ancestral regulations, concubines who attended the emperor must be formally recorded to ensure the imperial bloodline remained pure. If Cui Shuyun became pregnant during her confinement, a month without official records, she would face severe consequences. The month passed swiftly. When Cui Shuyun's confinement ended, she arrived at Cunning Hall to pay her respects. Radiant and refreshed, not at all like someone confined for a month. This time out, she had learned her lesson well. She had finally grasped that within these palace walls, Zhu Song was not the sole arbiter. Unfortunately, though her confinement ended, she remained childless. This left me with little leverage to exploit the situation. Yet Zhu Song, likely fearing my resentment, never openly summoned Cui Shuyun to his bedchamber after her release. Instead, he spent every night at Cunning Palace. I understood his scheme, to thrust me into the fray, pitting me against the other consorts. That way, his darling would remain safe. But my sisters and I have all been burned by them once before. The searing pain of flames spreading across our bodies is still fresh in our memories. How could we possibly let him have his way? To avoid giving away our game. However, the other consorts and I played along, putting on a show of jealous rivalry to keep Zhu Song from suspecting anything. But spies from the Hall of Diligent Governance reported that Zhu Song would often secretly summon Cui Shuyun there to attend him. After each service, he would bestow upon Cui Shuyun a bowl of contraceptive soup. What they didn't know was that what Cui Shuyun drank was never contraceptive soup, but fertility-enhancing concoctions. And heaven did not forsake me, Cui Shuyun's womb finally showed signs of life. On the day of the morning audience, Cui Shuyun arrived punctually as always. Impeccably timed. Today, I had deliberately burned a stronger incense in my hall. As soon as Cui Shuyun sat down, she couldn't help but retch twice. I exclaimed in surprise. What's wrong? Consort Cui? Are you feeling unwell? Your Majesty, this concubine may have a slight stomach discomfort, but it is nothing serious. I insisted. Still, please have the imperial physician examine you. You are the one the emperor holds dearest to his heart. I must have the physician take your pulse before I can feel at ease. Cui Shuyun likely never dreamed that the contraceptive potion she drank daily was actually a fertility potion. She agreed to let the physician take her pulse. After a thorough examination, the physician hurriedly announced, Your Majesty, the consort is with child. I gasped in shock. What did you say? With child? Physician Jiang, do not speak nonsense. Your Majesty, having practiced medicine for decades, I can state with certainty that the consort is indeed pregnant. Already over a month along. Hearing this, I slammed the table in fury. Impossible. Consort Shui hasn't attended the emperor's bedchamber in nearly 2 months. Where could this pregnancy come from? Consort Zhang understood immediately and stepped forward to slap Cui Shuyun across the face. You Cui Shuyun! How dare you make the emperor wear a green hat? Speak! Who is your adulterous lover? Cui Shuyun was knocked unconscious by the blow. When she regained her senses, she frantically protested, No. It's not like that. I haven't betrayed the emperor. The child in my womb is the emperor's. I looked at her with disappointment. At this point, Consort Cui, are you still trying to slander the emperor? The records from the Imperial Household Department show you haven't attended to the emperor in 2 months. How could you possibly be carrying his child? The emperor hasn't left court yet. I'll have you taken to Shokong Palace immediately and leave your fate to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager was born to a lowly official. Only because Zhu Song seized the throne by default did she rise to power through her son. She disliked pomp and ceremony, routinely dispensing with the concubines' daily greetings. At that moment, I ordered men to gag Cui Shuyun and escort her to Shokong Palace. The other consorts followed closely behind, ensuring every step of the way that Cui Shuyun's crime of adultery and pregnancy was solidified. The scandal erupted with such intensity that even after Zhu Song proved the child in Cui Shuyun's womb was his, both the emperor, who had secretly engaged in daylight debauchery with a consort, and the consort, who remained restless even under confinement, were subjected to multiple formal complaints from the court officials. Upon arriving at Shokong Palace, I immediately reported the matter to the Empress Dowager. Upon learning of such a scandal within the palace, the Empress Dowager was so enraged she nearly fainted. To purge the inner court, she ordered Cui Shuyun be given a bowl of abortion medicine. Cui Shuyun, silenced and unable to speak, struggled and protested in vain. The Empress Dowager remained unmoved, ordering attendants to restrain Cui Shuyun and force-feed her the potion. After all, since the founding of the dynasty, imperial concubines attending the emperor had always been strictly documented to ensure the purity of the royal bloodline. Even the most extravagant Emperor Zhao had never dared to break this rule. The Empress Dowager could never have imagined her son and Cui Shuyun would act so recklessly. Now, the situation was utterly chaotic. Calculating the time, Zhu Song would soon be leaving court. How would he clean up this mess? When Zhu Song hurriedly arrived at Shokong Palace, he was utterly shocked. After all, Cui Shuyun had taken the contraceptive potion every single time. It was impossible for her to be pregnant. But when he inquired with the imperial physician and learned that the potion couldn't completely prevent pregnancy, he breathed a sigh of relief. Yet, upon seeing Cui Shuyun bleeding profusely from her lower body, he was utterly stunned. That bowl of abortion medicine was potent indeed. Even if Hua Tuo himself were alive today, he couldn't have saved Cui Shuyun's child. Upon learning the child was lost, Cui Shuyun wept with heart-wrenching grief. Your Majesty, I truly did not betray you. You know, the child in my womb was yours. The Empress. She has such a cruel heart. I knew this would happen and deliberately had her brought to Shokong Palace for punishment. No matter how dissatisfied Ren Zhu is, he cannot pin this blame on me. So I looked at Cui Shuyun in utter bewilderment. How could this possibly be blamed on this palace? Setting aside whether the child in your womb truly belonged to His Majesty. Even if it did, today's matter was decided by the Empress Dowager herself, who personally bestowed upon you a bowl of abortion medicine. Are you, Consort Cui, now harboring resentment toward the Empress Dowager? Cui Shuyun's entry into the palace had already caused a huge stir both inside and outside the palace walls. And the Empress Dowager never liked her. So when she heard Cui was carrying the bastard child, she couldn't be bothered to investigate. She simply ordered an abortion potion to settle the matter. Now, upon hearing Cui Shuyun's words, She couldn't be bothered to argue with her. She turned directly to Zhu Song. My son, what exactly is the story behind the child in Cui Shuyun's womb? Under our piercing gazes, Zhu Song awkwardly explained, the child in Shuyun's womb is indeed mine. But I've just reviewed the imperial records. Cui Mei hasn't attended your bedchamber for 2 months. How could she conceive your child? I've heard from the Empress that you favor this Cui Mei greatly. Don't let passion cloud your judgment and mistake a bastard for a royal heir. Your son would never confuse the imperial bloodline. But the Empress Dowager pressed, but what? But during Lady Cui's confinement, I secretly summoned her to attend to me in the Hall of Diligent Governance. Even after her confinement ended, it was through my secret summons that Lady Cui became pregnant. Thus, the imperial records contain no entries of her attending to me. At these words, the Empress Dowager exclaimed it was absurd. You, the sovereign of this nation, have committed such acts? Truly unheard of. After hearing these words, I too looked at Zhu Song with dismay. Is the emperor so enamored with Consort Cui? Even while confined, he summoned her to attend him. If so, the emperor could have simply told this servant. I would never have caused the emperor any difficulty. This colossal misunderstanding has not only ruined Lady Cui's reputation but also led to the imperial heir being mistakenly deemed illegitimate. My heart is truly heavy with guilt. At this point, I forced 2 tears from my eyes and turned to kneel before the Empress Dowager. Mother, today's loss of the royal heir is my fault. I am willing to offer the Empress's position to compensate Lady Cui. But this crown of Empress, I dare offer it. Yet neither the Empress Dowager nor Zhu Song would dare accept it. After all, my father and brothers still serve at the frontier. Even though everyone knows I stirred the pot today. Zhu Song and Cui Shuyun can only swallow this silent humiliation. Worse still, the Empress Dowager must now placate me. She hurriedly lifted me from the ground. Your Majesty, how can you say such things? Since entering the palace, you have managed court affairs with diligence. This Consort Cui is merely a concubine meant to amuse the emperor. How could she possibly warrant the empress, the sovereign's consort, to resign in disgrace? In this Empress Dowager's view, even while confined, Consort Cui still captivated the emperor's thoughts. She is no simple matter, considering she has just lost the imperial heir. I shall not impose a severe punishment. She shall spend a month praying in the Baohua Hall within the palace. This will allow her to reflect on her mistakes and also offer prayers for her lost child. The Empress Dowager's plan ran completely counter to Cui Shuyun's expectations. But she could do nothing against the Empress Dowager and could only turn to Zhu Song for help. Your Majesty, our child. He died so tragically. Her heart-wrenching display pierced Zhu Song's heart, prompting him to immediately plead with the Empress Dowager. Mother, Shuyun has just lost her child. Confining her to the Baohua Hall seems rather harsh. Wouldn't you agree? Yet the Empress Dowager, who usually remained detached, once she made a decision, would not budge. Thus, Cui Shuyun was sent to Baohua Hall to pray for blessings. Just as everything seemed settled, the Empress Dowager quickly signaled to Zhu Song. Only then did he reluctantly help me up from the ground. The moment I rose, I deliberately leaned toward Zhu Song. He instinctively caught me, asking, "What's wrong, Empress? Your servant feels a bit dizzy. To be honest, I've been experiencing poor appetite lately, with chest tightness and nausea. I'm not sure what's causing it." Hearing this, both the Empress Dowager and Zhu Song were startled. After all, these sounded like symptoms of pregnancy. Zhu Song promptly ordered the imperial physician to take my pulse. After carefully examining my pulse, the physician announced joyfully, "Congratulations, Your Majesty the Empress Dowager. Congratulations, Your Majesty the Emperor. Congratulations, Your Majesty the Empress. Your Majesty is with child." What? The Empress Dowager and Zhu Song exclaimed simultaneously, their voices filled with disbelief. Zhu Song was utterly incredulous. How could the Empress be pregnant? Had you misread the pulse? After all, every time Zhu Song spent the night in the cunning palace, he would bestow upon me a bowl of so-called pregnancy tonic. But in truth, after I was reborn, I secretly invited a renowned physician from outside the palace to examine that medicine. It was nothing but a contraceptive concoction. That's why, in my previous life, even after years in the palace, I never conceived. This trick of shifting blame, the very one I used against Shui Shuyun, was learned from Zhu Song himself. Yet now, feigning ignorance, I looked at him with feigned confusion. Your Majesty, why have I been unable to conceive? Did you not instruct the Imperial Medical Bureau to prepare pregnancy-inducing herbs for me each time? Now that I am with child, are you displeased? Or could it be, you only desire the child born by Consort Shui? Is the child within my womb one you do not want? Hearing this, the Empress Dowager was the first to react, hastily attempting to smooth things over. What nonsense are you speaking? Shu Yao, you are the esteemed Empress of the Central Palace. The child you bear is the legitimate heir, destined to inherit the ancestral legacy. How could your imperial son not cherish it? It was merely a momentary lapse after losing a child earlier. Wouldn't you agree? My son? Mother is correct. I merely overreacted in my joy. Now that you are with child, you need not concern yourself with palace affairs. From this day forward, the management of court duties shall be entrusted to Consort Yan and Consort Zhang. This is an opportunistic power grab, sowing discord. It matters not. I no longer covet the position of Empress. What I desire now is the throne of Empress Dowager. After leaving Shokong Palace, news of my pregnancy spread instantly throughout the palace and beyond. Even my father and brothers at the frontier sent messengers from beyond the pass, urging me to take good care of my pregnancy. They also instructed me to tell our family members to keep a low profile in their actions, lest anyone seize upon their missteps. After all, our Mu family holds military power, and now that I am with child, naturally some will harbor ill intentions. Especially the Empress Dowager and Zhu Song, no doubt they'd be losing sleep night after night. Humph. Let them suffer. In my past life, the Mu family served with unwavering loyalty, and I loved Zhu Song with all my heart. Yet we ended up consumed by flames. Had I not reincarnated in time, my soul would likely still be drifting in the air, witnessing Cui Shiyun ascend to my position as Empress. Then watching Zhu Song treacherously destroy the Mu family. That would truly be a death with eyes wide open. During this period of nurturing my pregnancy, I also began preparing to confront my family. After all, their support is essential for my plans to succeed. While pondering how to persuade them, someone arrived bearing a pillow. Days later, the consorts came to pay their respects. As soon as Consort Yao entered the cunning palace, she mysteriously ordered all servants dismissed. Once only the reincarnated consorts remained in the main hall. Consort Yao cut straight to the point. Last night, His Majesty entrusted me with a task. I asked in confusion, what was it? The Emperor ordered me to find an opportunity to dispose of your child. He promised that once your child is gone, he will immediately grant me the title of consort and allow me to co-manage the 6 palaces alongside Consort Yan and Consort Zhang. Truthfully, none of us were surprised by Consort Yao's words. After all, the Emperor excelled at using others as his tools. This was precisely how he succeeded in my previous life. I shot Yao Pin a meaningful look. Such generous terms, doesn't that tempt you, sister? Pfft. As if I'd be tempted. The searing pain of that fire still jolts me awake every night. I swear I'll make that dog couple taste it too. Besides, I've come to terms with it. The Emperor doesn't care for me, and I care nothing for him. Rather than spend my days as his concubine, Caught up in palace intrigues. I'd be better off pledging allegiance to Her Majesty. When the Emperor passes, I'll ride on Her Majesty's coattails to become a dowager consort. Keeping a few formidable guards in the palace, wouldn't that be splendid? No sooner had Consort Yao spoken than the other consorts rushed to pledge their loyalty to me. Those with influential families promised to persuade their clans to join my side, hoping to claim credit for supporting the victor in the future. With everyone united, our goal would surely be achieved swiftly. To avoid arousing Zhu Song's suspicion, Consort Yao and I staged a performance. While strolling in the imperial garden, Yao Pin's beloved dog suddenly charged at me, colliding with my abdomen and knocking me to the ground. The impact immediately caused me to experience a miscarriage. Subsequent investigations revealed someone had deliberately sprinkled a drug that drives dogs mad at the spot where I took my daily respite. This crime naturally fell upon Yao Pin. The Emperor, constrained by appearances, had no choice but to punish Consort Yao. He demoted her rank and banished her to the cold palace. But she feigned terror and publicly declared that the Emperor had ordered her to harm me and my unborn child, leaving Zhu Song utterly horrified. Nonsense. Shu Yao. This Consort Yao must be lashing out in shame and fury, deliberately sowing discord between us. You must not believe her words. Your bond with the Emperor is profound, and the child within you is his own flesh and blood. How could he ever harm you or the child? I naturally reassured Zhu Song. Your Majesty need not worry. Such absurd claims. This servant naturally does not believe. My devotion to your Majesty is unquestionable. How could you treat me thus? Yet immediately afterward, I penned a secret letter, arranging for it to be discreetly delivered to the frontier. I detailed to my father and brothers Zhu Song's actions toward me since Cui Shuyun entered the palace. I told them the Emperor suspects the Mu family and wishes to eliminate the child within me, having already ordered attempts on my life multiple times. I implored them to intervene on my behalf. I was certain my father and brothers would believe my letter without question. After all, it was I who had originally proposed marrying Zhu Song. My affection for Zhu Song was acknowledged by all our family. I would never deceive them with such matters. Meanwhile, Cui Shuyun had also emerged from the Buddhist temple. After losing her child, she fully grasped the cruelty of the imperial palace. She had truly learned to lie low. Yet the venomous hatred in her eyes toward everyone remained impossible to conceal. But it mattered little, she wouldn't live much longer. 9 months of pregnancy culminate in a single moment of childbirth. On the day I gave birth, assassins somehow infiltrated the palace. Midway through labor, an assassin burst in, intent on taking both my life and my child's. What felt most despairing was that when palace attendants sought the guards, they were nowhere to be found. The assassin ran rampant through the cunning palace. Needless to say, this was undoubtedly Zhu Song's doing. After all, throughout these 10 months, he had exhausted every means to abort the child within me, yet failed. Today's assassins must be his final gambit. For once my child is safely born, a sword will hang perpetually over his head. Who knew when that sword would fall, severing his head and ushering in a new ruler for the empire? What he didn't know was that I had already prepared my countermeasures. When the assassins stormed the birthing chamber, the palace maids guarding the door drew soft swords from their waists and engaged the attackers in fierce combat. These maids I brought into the palace were all skilled warriors, trained by my father and brothers. Unwilling to leave me alone in the depths of the palace, they had provided me with this backup. Yet to complete the charade, after eliminating the assassins, I dispatched messengers to the Hall of Diligent Governance to report the Empress had just given birth to a royal heir when she was struck down by assassins, perishing alongside the infant prince. Such momentous news would surely spread throughout the palace in no time. I trust father's spies will swiftly carry this news beyond the palace walls as well. After receiving my letter, father, uneasy about my safety, dispatched my elder brother with troops to return to the capital. To avoid arousing suspicion, They did not enter the city but instead held their ground several miles outside the capital. Yet if they rode at full gallop, they should still be able to reach the palace in time for the coup. While I hid disguised behind the screen, Xu Song hurried in with Cui Shuyun. Upon seeing my and the child's bodies, he roared with fury. How could assassins enter cunning palace? Investigate thoroughly. Justice must be served for the Empress and the child. As expected, the final investigation would inevitably trace the assassin's origins to the maternal family of some high-ranking concubine. Killing two birds with one stone was a tactic Xu Song consistently favored. Once everyone had withdrawn, Xu Song dropped all pretense and declared excitedly to Cui Shuyun, now that the Empress is finally dead, once I've purged the harem, I shall make you Empress. Despite this being an unbelievable lie, Cui Shuyun clung to it as if it were a precious treasure. Your Majesty does care for me. Xiao Yun, she murmured. But what a pity for our child, that poisonous woman. The Empress killed him. To let her die so easily today is far too lenient. I wish to see her torn to pieces. Do not grieve, Xiao Yun. We shall have many more children in the future. Just then, a thunderous signal blast pierced the sky. That's the secret signal I agreed upon with my brother. This meant he had already entered the palace with his men. If that was the case, it was time to show our true colors. As Xu Song embraced Cui Shuyun triumphantly, I stepped out from behind the screen. Seeing me, Xu Song froze in shock. Empress. You're not supposed to be. The last two words stuck in Xu Song's throat. Unspoken. I finished for him. Your Majesty meant to say, your servant is dead. Correct? Too bad. Your servant is tough as nails. Even death can't keep me down. Sensing trouble, Xu Song stumbled back 3 steps and bellowed for his guards. Only when the guards closed in did he relax slightly. With tensions now running high, Xu Song dropped all pretense. Guards! Seize the Empress! Yet no one responded. Not a single guard stirred. Xu Song panicked. You dare disobey my command? Have you all rebelled? I laughed coldly. Congratulations, Your Majesty. You've guessed correctly. I, Mu Shuyao, have indeed rebelled. Xu Song was startled by my words. Yet he regained a sliver of composure. Your father and brothers are far away. With what do you intend to rebel? Even if you've swayed the palace guards. What then? My personal shadow guards will protect me. With that, he clapped his hands 3 times. Instantly, several agile figures flipped through the windows outside the hall. They were uniformly clad in black robes and hoods. Clearly imperial guards trained by Xu Song. I smiled faintly. Your Majesty surely doesn't believe these few guards can stand against my brother's iron cavalry? Humph. Your Majesty speaks boldly. Setting aside whether your brother has truly returned to the capital, even if he were here now, the patrol regiments guarding my palace are no pushovers. Breaking through the palace gates to storm the queen's quarters would be no simple feat. Just then, Consort Yen arrived, shattering his last shred of hope. But Your Majesty, I have already arranged for my father to cooperate with the Empress's brother. I'm certain he has already entered the palace. The fireworks earlier were the signal. Yen. Xu Song never dreamed that he and Consort Yen, sworn enemies, would join forces to stage a palace coup. After all, in his previous life, driven apart by Xu Song's scheming, they were as incompatible as fire and water. Collaboration was unthinkable. Gathering his wits, Xu Song forced himself to speak. Consort Yen, did the Empress compel you to do this? If you can persuade your father to halt his reckless course and protect the throne for me, once this palace turmoil is quelled, I shall crown you Empress. Consort Yen scoffed. Forget it. I won't live long enough to be your Empress. Killing you and installing the Empress's son as heir would earn my father credit for supporting the rightful ruler. That's far better than being discarded after you've used me. Seeing persuasion futile, Zhu Song decisively fled the hall. Secret guards shielded his retreat. Yet just outside Cunning Palace, my elder brother shot an arrow through his skull. His blood-soaked form sent Cui Shuyun reeling into unconsciousness. Only then was the deed finally done. After that harrowing night, news spread throughout the court and the realm. The Empress had been assassinated while giving birth in the palace. And the Emperor, rushing to her side, had been struck through the head by an arrow fired from hidden assassins. The prince I bore was Zhu Song's only son, rightfully inheriting the throne. As for Cui Shuyun, I would arrange for her to be buried alive with him. Weren't they supposed to be deeply in love? Then let them descend together into the underworld. But why? Why did Cui Shuyun cling to my leg, begging for mercy? Seems her feelings for Zhu Song weren't that deep after all. But before she could finish, Consort Rong in the Emperor's arms pouted coquettishly. His Majesty burned all the sisters in the harem for my sake. So many lives lost, it truly weighs heavily on Shuyun's heart. After the national mourning concluded, my elder brother entered the palace to pay his respects. His face clouded with worry. Your Majesty, he said, this substitution, are you certain it won't cause trouble? If the new emperor's true identity is ever exposed, our Mu family's reputation will be utterly ruined. Indeed, the new emperor about to ascend the throne, my nominal son, was never my biological child. I merely administered medicine to distort my pulse, deceiving Zhu Song into believing I was pregnant. In truth, this child was conceived by my elder brother and his wife. The moment I received my brother's letter announcing my sister-in-law's pregnancy, I set this plan in motion. I used my miserable situation in the palace to convince both my brother and father. That's why Zhu Song tried every means to get rid of my child, because I was never pregnant at all. As for Zhu Song, he was utterly consumed by political maneuvering and his obsession with Cui Shuyun, leaving him no inclination to verify whether I was truly with child. So I remarked calmly, as long as my brother and father never lose their power, no one will ever question the new emperor's lineage. My brother understood this and withdrew. As for me, naturally, it was time to commission my Empress Dowager's ceremonial robes. The end.